They called him the Cowboy. For 53 years, his family's name burned brighter than any neon on Fremont Street. This is not a story about winning. This is about a dynasty that built Las Vegas on guts and gunpowder, only to watch it crumble from the inside. Destroyed not by the law or the mob, but by the very blood that made it legendary. By the time federal marshals walked into Binion's Horseshoe on that cold January morning in 2004, the money was already gone. The trust was broken, and the last of the Binions had gambled away everything their father built. The Cowboy's Code. To understand how it all fell apart, you have to go back to where it started. Back to the dusty roads of North Texas, where a sickly kid who couldn't read learned the only lesson that mattered: how to take what wasn't given. Lester Ben Binion, Benny to everyone who mattered, born in 1904 in Pilot Grove, Texas. He was too sick for school, too weak for books, so his father, a horse trader, took him on the road. And that's where young Benny learned to gamble. Not at a table, not with cards, with men. He watched the traders hustle farmers at county fairs, saw how they rigged a deal, how they read a mark, how they walked away with someone else's money and made it look fair. By the time Benny was 18, he'd graduated from watching to doing, moonshining during Prohibition, running numbers in Dallas, building an empire, one crooked dice game at a time. By the 1930s, Benny Binion was the king of Dallas. He controlled the gambling rackets, the policy wheels, the protection. He had judges in his pocket and sheriffs on his payroll. And when someone got in his way, well, Benny had a motto: do your enemies before they do you. He meant it. Bodies piled up, rivals disappeared, and Benny kept rolling. But in 1946, the game changed. A new sheriff got elected. One Benny didn't own, and for the first time in his life, the Cowboy had to run. So he packed up his wife, Teddy Jane, his kids, and a suitcase full of cash. Then, he headed west to a place where nobody cared what you had done in Texas, Las Vegas. When Benny Binion rolled into Las Vegas in 1946, the city was still sawdust and slot machines. It was nothing like what it would become. But Benny saw something nobody else did. He saw possibility. In 1951, he bought a rundown joint on Fremont Street, the El Dorado Club and the Apache Hotel. He turned it into something the Strip had never seen: Binion's Horseshoe. No showgirls, no fancy acts, just gambling. Pure, raw, high-stakes action. Benny's philosophy was simple: good food cheap, good whiskey cheap, and a good gamble. He backed it up. When other casinos had $500 table limits, Benny set his at $5,000, then $10,000. Then, he did something unthinkable. He eliminated limits entirely. If you walked into Binion's with a suitcase full of cash, Benny would cover your first bet, no matter the size. There is a story, maybe true, maybe legend, about a gambler who walked in with $1 million and put it all on the pass line at craps. One roll, one bet. The whole casino held its breath. The man lost. And Benny paid him respect anyway, because that is what you did at the Horseshoe. You honored the action. Benny also did something revolutionary. He put $1 million in cash on display in a horseshoe-shaped case. Tourists lined up for hours just to take a picture. It was not about the money. It was about the myth. Benny understood something that the corporate casinos never would. People did not come to Las Vegas to be treated like marks. They came to be treated like players, like equals, like cowboys themselves. The Horseshoe wasn't just profitable. It was legendary. And Benny Binion knew how to turn profit into power. But his greatest creation wasn't a casino floor or a neon sign. It was something that would outlive him by decades and change poker forever. In 1970, Benny created the World Series of Poker, 7 players, a few $1,000s, and a legend was born. The idea was simple: invite the best poker players in the world to compete for a championship. Make it public. Make it prestigious. turned poker from a backroom hustle into a legitimate sport. Johnny Moss won that first tournament. Benny stood beside him for the photo. Two Texas gamblers who had survived everything the world threw at them. And in that moment, the World Series of Poker became more than a tournament. It became proof that the Horseshoe was where legends were made. Every year the tournament grew. More players, bigger prize pools, television cameras. By the 1980s, the World Series of Poker was the most important poker event on Earth. And it all happened at Binion's Horseshoe. Benny ran the casino with an iron fist and a warm heart. He treated high rollers like royalty and tourists like family. He knew their names, remembered their stories, comped their meals even when they were losing. Benny understood that loyalty was worth more than any single night's take. The casino printed money, privately held, so they never had to report earnings. But everyone knew the Binions were rich, filthy rich, the kind of rich that came from understanding human nature and never apologizing for it. Benny served time in Leavenworth in the 1950s for tax evasion, 5 years. But even federal prison could not break him. He came out, went right back to running the Horseshoe, and kept building his empire. By the time Benny Binion died on Christmas Day, 1989, at age 85, he had done what no gangster ever does. He died of natural causes, in his own bed, surrounded by family, and he left them a kingdom. But kingdoms built by cowboys do not last. The second generation never knows how to keep what the first generation stole. Benny had 5 kids: Barbara, Jack, Brenda, Ted, and Becky. Barbara died in 1983 from a drug overdose. The others were supposed to carry the torch. Jack was the accountant, smart, steady, serious. Ted was the one who dressed like his daddy, carried a gun, tried to be the cowboy. Becky and Brenda were sidelined, running the kitchen and living in Amarillo. When Benny died, the will was simple. Split the Horseshoe 4 ways. Let the kids run it together. Should have been easy. But nothing in this family was ever easy. The heir apparent, Ted Binion, was supposed to be the heir. Everyone thought so. He had the name and the swagger. He ran the casino floor like Benny used to, watching for cheats and calculating odds in his head, making sure the house always won. But Ted had a problem. Actually, 2 problems. The MOB and heroin. Ted could not stay away from either one. He was best friends with Herbert Fat Herbie Blitzstein, a lieutenant for Chicago mobster Tony Spilotro. The Nevada Gaming Commission hated it. They suspended Ted's license in 1997 for failing drug tests. When Ted showed up to one test with every hair on his body shaved clean, trying to beat the system, they knew he was through. In March 1998, the commission permanently revoked Ted's license. He was banned from even entering his own family's casino. Ted fell apart. He smoked more heroin, black tar, the cheap stuff. Chasing the dragon, as addicts call it. His paranoia exploded, and he started hoarding his fortune in bizarre ways. He had 6 tons of silver bullion, rare coins, and cash. Instead of keeping it in a bank, he buried it in the Nevada desert, in Pahrump, 60 miles west of Las Vegas, in a 12-foot deep concrete vault he had built in secret, $7 million underground, guarded by nothing but sand. And that is when Sandra Murphy walked into his life. Sandy Murphy was 23, a former topless dancer with blonde hair and big dreams. She met Ted at Cheetah's, a strip club off the strip, and within weeks she had moved into his 8,500 square foot mansion on Palomino Lane. Ted gave her everything: a Mercedes, a $10,000 a month credit card, jewelry, dinners at the finest restaurants in Las Vegas. For a girl from California, it was a fairy tale. But Ted was no prince. He was a hardcore addict, smoking heroin every day, becoming distant and violent. Friends saw Sandy with bruises and with clumps of hair missing. She told them Ted beat her, but she stayed. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was the money. Then Ted hired a Montana contractor named Rick Tabish to haul sand from one of his properties. Tabish was ruggedly handsome, financially desperate, and he had a criminal record for assault and cocaine dealing. He and Sandy fell for each other. Ted found out in the final weeks of his life. Ted was paranoid. He knew Sandy was cheating. He told friends someone was going to kill him. He even changed his will, cutting Sandy out. On September 16, 1998, Ted told his lawyer, "Take Sandy out of the will. If she does not kill me tonight, you will know what happened." The next day, September 17, 1998, Sandy called 911. Her voice was panicked. "My husband has stopped breathing." Paramedics found Ted Binion on the floor of his den, lying on a yoga mat, an empty bottle of Xanax beside him, heroin in his system. It looked like an overdose, but Ted's family didn't believe it. Neither did the cops. 2 days after Ted's death, Nye County Sheriff's deputies got a call about suspicious activity in Paw Rump. When they arrived at Ted's vacant lot in the middle of the night, they found Rick Tabish and 2 other men digging up the silver vault. Tabish claimed that Ted had asked him to move it, that he was protecting it for Ted's daughter. But the timing was too perfect, the story too convenient. Detectives started digging deeper into Ted's death, and the more they looked, the more wrong it seemed. Ted had heroin in his stomach, but Ted never swallowed heroin. He smoked it, always. His drug dealer confirmed it. His ex-wife confirmed it. Heroin tastes bitter. No addict would drink it. Then, there were the marks on Ted's body. Red spots on his chest, bruising on his wrists, abrasions around his mouth. 6 months after Ted's death, the medical examiner changed the ruling. It wasn't suicide. It wasn't an overdose. It was murder. In June 1999, Sandy Murphy and Rick Tabish were arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The prosecution's theory was chilling. Sandy and Rick had forced Ted to drink a cocktail of heroin, Xanax, and Valium. When the drugs weren't killing him fast enough, they suffocated him using a 19th century technique called burking. One person covering the nose and mouth while another sits on the chest. They did it for greed. They did it for lust. They did it for $7 million buried in the desert. The trial in 2000 was a media circus. Testimony about sex, drugs, domestic abuse, buried treasure. A famous pathologist named Michael Baden testified that Ted was murdered. The defense claimed it was suicide. After 8 days of deliberation, the jury convicted them both. Sandy got 22 years to life. Rick got 25. But in 2003, the Nevada Supreme Court overturned the conviction on a technicality. A second trial was ordered. And in November 2004, after a second jury heard the evidence, Sandy Murphy and Rick Tabish were acquitted of murder. The case was purely circumstantial. The crime scene was contaminated. The witnesses couldn't be believed. They walked free. To this day, nobody knows for sure how Ted Binion died. Was it murder? Was it suicide? Was it an accidental overdose? The mystery remains. But one thing is certain. Ted's death set off a chain reaction that would destroy everything Benny Binion had built. The war for the Horseshoe. While Ted's murder trial was making headlines, another war was raging inside the Horseshoe. A quieter war, a family war, between siblings who could not agree on how to run their father's casino. Jack Binion had been running the Horseshoe since 1964. He was the president, the face of the operation. And under Jack's leadership, the Horseshoe was the most profitable casino in Las Vegas. It was privately held, so they never had to report earnings, but everyone knew the Binions were printing money. Jack also expanded the brand. He opened Horseshoe casinos in Louisiana and Mississippi, riverboat operations that made him even richer. By the late 1990s, Jack Binion was a mogul in his own right, but his sister Becky saw it differently. Becky accused Jack of neglecting the Vegas property, of using Horseshoe assets to fund his out-of-state ventures, of mismanaging the casino, while she, who had spent her life running the kitchen, got nothing. In January 1996, Becky sued Jack for control of the Horseshoe. She alleged $20 million in losses under Jack's management. She claimed he was steering the ship toward disaster. Jack fired back. He said the only reason for losses was Becky's meddling, that she did not understand the gambling business, that she was creating a deadlock. The battle raged for 2 years. Court filings, depositions, accusations. It got ugly. This was not a business dispute. This was blood turning on blood. And then Ted lost his license in March 1998. The Gaming Commission ordered him to sell his 20% stake. That forced the whole family to the negotiating table. In June 1998, a deal was struck. Jack bought out Ted and Brenda's shares, then sold his 42% plus their shares to Becky in exchange for a promissory note for $20 million. Jack kept 1% so he could maintain his Nevada gaming license, and Becky became sole owner of Binion's Horseshoe. She had won, and in winning, she destroyed the family's legacy. Becky's reign of error. Becky Binion took over the Horseshoe with big plans. She wanted to bring it back to the way it was when her father ran it. The warmth, the hospitality, good food cheap, good whiskey cheap, and a good gamble. Instead, she brought disaster. First, Becky's husband Nick became the shadow operator. Nick Binion had been denied a gaming license back in 1978 for failing to disclose illegal gambling arrests. The Nevada Gaming Commission explicitly warned Becky, "Nick cannot be involved, keep him out." But everyone knew Nick was running things. He made decisions, he banned customers, he fought with employees, and the casino suffered. Becky made one catastrophic mistake after another. She sold the $1 million cash display, the iconic horseshoe-shaped case that tourists had flocked to see for decades. She lowered table limits, driving away the high rollers who had made the Horseshoe legendary. She closed the bingo room. She shut down the restaurant where Benny used to hold court. She cut costs everywhere, thinking she was saving money. All she did was kill the soul of the place. And then came the Bob Stupak scandal. Bob Stupak was a high-stakes gambler and longtime friend of Jack and Ted Binion, a regular at the Horseshoe poker tables. In November 1998, just weeks after Ted died, Stupak tried to cash in $250,000 in $5,000 chips. Becky refused. She claimed the chips were not legitimate, that maybe they had been stolen from Ted's estate, that she could not verify Stupak had won them at the Horseshoe. Stupak also had 2 safe deposit boxes full of cash in the casino cage. Becky refused to return that too. Stupak went public. He hired a lawyer. He got the Nevada Gaming Control Board involved. Gaming agents walked into the Horseshoe and ordered Becky to cash the chips. She refused again on camera with news crews rolling. Finally, the agents ordered Becky to bring out Stupak's cash boxes. Cashiers counted at least $300,000 in $100 bills. Stupak stuffed it into shopping bags and left. But Becky still would not cash the chips. The next day, Stupak came back, this time with the entire UNLV football team as bodyguards. They marched past security guards and straight to the cage. Becky still refused. The scandal made national news. The Nevada Gaming Commission scheduled a hearing. Only then, in July 1999, the day before the hearing, did Becky finally cash all the outstanding $5,000 chips. The damage was done. High rollers stopped coming to the Horseshoe. Regulars went elsewhere. The casino's reputation, built on Benny's promise that any bet would be honored, was shattered. And Becky was not done making mistakes. Behind the scenes, the Horseshoe was bleeding money. Becky had defaulted on her $20 million promissory note to Jack. She was not paying rent to the Fremont Street experience. She was not contributing to the downtown mall assessments. Bills piled up. Debts grew. Worst of all, Becky was not keeping enough cash in the casino cage to pay winners. It is the most basic rule in gaming. You must have sufficient funds to cover every chip on your floor. The Nevada Gaming Commission noticed. They warned Becky. She ignored them. In November 2002, the Culinary Workers Union filed a complaint. Becky had not signed a collective bargaining agreement. She had fallen behind on pension and medical insurance payments for her employees. In March 2003, a settlement was reached. Becky agreed to pay, but she did not. By June 2003, the Horseshoe had stopped making payments entirely. The union filed judgments totaling over $1.5 million. The court gave the union the right to seize money from the casino if payments were not met. Becky kept missing deadlines, extension after extension. The union held off, hoping she would come up with the money. She never did. On December 5, 2003, the Culinary Union obtained a court order to seize up to $1.9 million from the Horseshoe's casino cage. 1 month later, on Friday, January 9, 2004, federal marshals walked through the front doors of Binion's Horseshoe. The final hand. They went straight to the cage. They presented the court order, and they took $1 million in cash. The seizure wiped out the casino's bankroll. Without enough money to pay gamblers, the Horseshoe was legally required to close. Nevada gaming law is crystal clear on this. A casino must maintain sufficient funds to cover every chip on the floor, every outstanding marker, every potential payout. Becky had been running the Horseshoe on fumes for months. Now, the fumes were gone. Roulette wheels stopped spinning mid-game. Blackjack dealers collected cards from confused tourists. Slot machines went silent, one section at a time, as technicians shut them down. Pit bosses walked the floor, telling gamblers they had to cash out now, immediately, before the cage ran completely dry. Dealers and cocktail waitresses were sent home. Some cried, some were angry, most were just tired. They had seen this coming for years, the declined credit cards, the bounced paychecks, the way management kept cutting corners and hoping nobody would notice. After 53 years from 1951 to 2004, Binion's Horseshoe shut its doors. The marshals were the last customers. They did not come to gamble. They came to collect. Inside the casino that final month, employees knew it was over. Some had worked there since Benny's time. They had watched Jack build the World Series of Poker into a global phenomenon. They had seen Ted spiral into drugs, and they had witnessed Becky run the place into the ground. One employee later said that when Jack ran it, they were a family. When Becky took over, they were just workers. The difference was not subtle. Under Jack, dealers knew the regulars by name. Pit bosses remembered birthdays. The Horseshoe felt like a neighborhood bar that happened to have a casino attached. Under Becky, it felt corporate, cold, like she was trying to squeeze every last dollar out of the place before it collapsed. Which, as it turned out, was exactly what she was doing. Another employee recalled that the staff knew the marshals were coming, but they did not want to believe it. They told themselves maybe she would find the money, maybe Jack would bail her out, maybe something would change. But deep down, they knew the house was broke. And when the house is broke, everybody loses. The Horseshoe had survived Benny going to prison in the 1950s. It survived the mob wars of the 60s and 70s. It survived the corporatization of Vegas in the 80s. It survived the mega resort boom of the 90s. It survived everything Vegas threw at it: recessions, competition, changing tastes. But it could not survive the Binions turning on each other. It could not survive a family war that turned siblings into enemies and a casino into a weapon. A longtime dealer remembered standing at his table when the marshals walked in. He said he had dealt cards for Benny. He had seen him settle million-dollar bets with a handshake, no paperwork, no lawyers, just his word. And now, he watched federal agents empty the cage because his daughter could not be trusted to pay her own employees. He said the old man would have been heartbroken. He had built the place on trust. Your word was your bond. You honor your debts. You take care of your people. And his own daughter destroyed that trust. She did not just lose the casino. She lost what the Horseshoe meant. That was what killed them. Not the money, but the soul. The metaphor was not accidental. Everyone who worked there understood it. The Horseshoe was not just a building or a business. It was an idea. The idea was simple. A working man could walk into a casino and be treated like royalty. Your bet would be honored, no matter how big. The house played fair because the house had integrity. Becky had killed that idea. Without that reputation, the Horseshoe was just another downtown casino with tired carpets, outdated rooms, and low limits. Nothing special. On January 12, 2004, Becky reached a deal to sell the Horseshoe to Harrah's Entertainment for $50 million. The casino reopened in April under Harrah's management, but it was not the same. The soul was gone. The magic was gone. The name was still there, but the legend had died. Harrah's kept the World Series of Poker and the Horseshoe brand. They sold the physical property to MTR Gaming Group. The name stayed, but no Binion ran it anymore. For the first time in 53 years, Fremont Street had a Horseshoe without a Binion. And somehow, that felt like the final insult, the final betrayal. Ironically, at the same time, Becky was selling her family's flagship casino for $50 million. Her brother Jack sold his Horseshoe Gaming Holding Corporation, the riverboat casinos he had built outside Nevada, to Harrah's for $1.45 billion. Not million, billion with a B. Jack had taken his 1% stake and turned it into an empire. Becky had taken 100% and destroyed it. The math was brutal. The irony was crushing. And somewhere, you have to believe Benny Binion was watching, shaking his head, wondering how his children had learned every lesson except the one that mattered most. Family is everything, until it isn't. What became of them? Jack Binion went on to serve as chairman of Wynn Resorts. He is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He never speaks publicly about the family war. He does not have to. His success speaks for itself. Becky Binion disappeared from public life after the sale. She never rebuilt, never recovered. The casino that bore her father's name, the dynasty he built with blood and guts, crumbled in her hands. Sandy Murphy moved to California. She married an art dealer and she runs a gallery in Laguna Beach. She maintains her innocence. She says Ted Binion died of an overdose and she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Rick Tabish served 11 years in prison. He was paroled in 2010. He moved back to Montana, went into the cryptocurrency business, and claims he has turned his life around. He never admits to killing Ted. To this day, he says he was just helping a friend. Ted's buried silver went to his daughter Bonnie. The vault in Pahrump sits empty now, a concrete tomb for a family's greed. And the statue of Benny Binion, the young cowboy on horseback that once stood outside the Horseshoe, was moved to the South Point Casino, miles away from Fremont Street. A relic of an era that is gone forever. Reflection. This was the story of the Binions. A family that built Las Vegas, a father who ruled with guts and gunpowder, children who could not stop fighting over what he left behind. Benny Binion created something that should have lasted forever, a casino built on trust, a reputation that meant something, a name that opened every door in Vegas. And his children destroyed it in less than 15 years. Not through bad luck, not through economic forces, through greed, through ego, through the kind of family warfare that turns blood into poison. Ted died under mysterious circumstances, surrounded by people who wanted his money more than they wanted him alive. $7 million buried in the desert, a vault that became a tomb, a life that ended with questions that will never be answered. Jack built an empire but lost his family in the process. He turned 1% into $1 billion, while his siblings tore each other apart. He won financially, but what did he lose? Some victories cost more than money can measure. Becky won the battle for the Horseshoe and destroyed it within 6 years. She got what she wanted, total control, and she used that control to dismantle everything Benny had built. The $1 million display, the high roller culture, the trust, the soul. And Benny's legacy evaporated in a single morning when federal marshals walked into the cage. 53 years gone, because his children could not remember the one lesson that mattered. Your word is your bond. Trust matters. And families should be stronger than money. In the end, the house always wins. But this time, the house was their own family, and they gambled away everything. That was the story of a true Vegas legend. Which part shocked you the most? Tell me in the comments. If you love discovering the real people behind the neon, Hit subscribe, because every legend had a story. Vegas never forgets.